and we ended up taking down our first 94 unit within 6 months. And once I saw that it could be done and it made sense, all of a sudden, like, fireworks went off in my head.
Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Hey, our sponsor for the show today is Pine Financial Group, the leader in hard money lending in Colorado and Minnesota, and they were recently approved to offer their investment publicly. This investment offer is only for investors in Colorado and Minnesota and is only made through their investment prospectus. Get your copy today. Simply visit www.pineinvestments.com and click to get started. Look, there's a reason why some of the wealthiest people in history invest in loans backed by real estate. Learn more about the risks and returns at www.pineinvestments.com. Hello and welcome back to Pillars of Wealth Creation. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. With me today, I'm excited to have Pili Yarusi. Pili, how are you doing today?
Very good, and so excited, so honored to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to have you on, and a little bit about Pili. She is a wonderful woman, amazing wife, a loving mommy, and awesome human. She's partnered with her equally awesome husband, Jason Yarusi. You might recognize his name. He was on our podcast, actually quite a few episodes ago, probably about a year and a half ago. So I got to get him back on too. They created Yarusi Holdings LLC, a large multifamily investment firm. Currently, their general partners are about 800 units with 250 under direct asset management. Her focus is on large multifamily syndication and asset management. She has a goal of $450 million in assets under management. Pili's high-level action steps are providing her investors with capital preservation by looking for B and C class assets in the $20 to $50 million range. Her markets include Kentucky, Georgia, and Florida. She runs the investor and client relations branches of both Yarusi Holdings and the Multifamily Foundation LLC. Multifamily Foundation is Pili and Jason's interactive education platform for investors to build a strong foundation with buying a large multifamily. And she also loves to play with her kiddos and husband, run, do yoga, and CrossFit. She's currently a 75 harder, and which I was a part of as well, not directly with you guys, but sometime during that time. And
We're in the same space.
Yeah, you guys are continuing to just absolutely crush it. So with that said, Pili, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your background, kind of where you guys came from and how that has evolved, how the company has evolved.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Todd, for having me on. So glad to be here. So a little bit about my background. I am originally from Hawaii. Jason and I met many moons ago. What was it, 2003? Managing and bartending in restaurants. And our friendship has been long and wide. And we got together 2012. And it's been amazing since. Our real estate background, we decided to jump into real estate when his father's company, Jason and I also are part of a family company that lifts and raises homes. And Hurricane Sandy happened and they needed help. So we both jumped in. Jason took over operations for the business and I was helping as well. And that just kind of turned into real estate, turned into flipping and wholesaling, which turned into buy and hold, which turned into large multifamily. The story's a little bit more deep, but that's basically the high level of everything.
Why? So you guys are doing the flipping. I mean, pretty natural progression, right? From the construction company to flipping houses probably makes a lot of sense. Maybe you did some house raising while you're doing some of those flips too. I mean, so that's pretty natural. It sounds like. So then why was it all of a sudden we're going to try to do these large multifamilies?
Well, it was like you said, it was natural. It's like the natural progression. I think it's the natural progression for every single flipper and wholesaler, is to get into large multifamily. But that's just my opinion. So we were doing these amazing projects. I mean, to kind of dig a little bit deeper into our flipping background, our first flip was, we used to call it lift and flip. We would actually take these storm ravaged homes. We would help out the homeowners, of course. We would buy their homes, and then we would actually take the home, lift it not once, but we would lift it twice, add another level. I mean, when you hear of add a level, you think, oh, pop the top and
Pop
add
the
another
top.
level on top. Not us. We add a level by adding another story below the entire house, and then putting the basement, or not the basement, but the garage under that, because
Oh,
of the
wow.
flood level on the BFE, like the flood zones, homes have to be up above a certain level. So the garage usually took care of that. So
So you
that's,
guys would be lifting this 18
yes.
feet or so.
Yes, even more,
Yeah.
just to really, really get under there. So that's, I mean, most people, when they start flipping, they like think about, they start wholesaling, or they do like lipstick on a pig flips. No, we kind of went big and went hard, and it took us a year to complete our first flip.
Wow. Did you
And
make any money?
we did make money. We have rarely lost money on any of our flips, but our flips took so long, and it wasn't a scalable process, because house lifting is not something we could have anybody else do, because that's what we knew how to
Mm,
do.
sure.
So, but we couldn't like sell the business. We couldn't scale it up, because there was only a certain amount of these lift and flips that we could do within a calendar year. And then we still had our other clients. So it just got too busy. It was just too much. Plus, Jason and I have this problem. We just do not like to put down the hammer. If something needs to be done, both of us have this mindset of, well, I'm just going to do it myself because
Just
it'll
do
be
it.
quicker,
Yep.
instead of me having to explain to somebody else how to do it, which is how you're supposed to leverage people. So we learned the hard way. Uh, our flipping and wholesaling business was, we were being very profitable, but we weren't having enough time with our family. Plus, we were also, at the same time, we had picked up these two duplexes in Indiana. A turnkey provider approached me. I was like, okay, I don't want to do turnkey, but what I will do is that if you can provide me with a couple of duplexes, I don't want single families either. Provide me with a couple of duplexes. If the numbers work out, I'll partner up with you. You can do the construction. I'll pay you to do the construction. I will purchase the property outright. You can put your fee on it like a wholesaler, but I want a discount because I will be funding the entire thing from start to finish. So I got a discount on that. We held these things for a year. The ROI was fantastic, but it was like D properties in Indianapolis, and Jason and I weren't sure if we wanted to scale that. We could have, but we weren't sure. But of course, Jason, with his visionary mind, he was just like, you know, if we can do this with two duplexes, what? Why can't we do this with 10 units, 20 units, 100 units, 500 units? So this is the key difference between mine and Jason's mindset. Like I actually brought these two duplexes to the table. I normally don't do that. But of course, Jason would take that and take it to the next level, which was large multifamily, which is what we both do. Of course, when he told me that, I was like, I was pregnant with our second child. We had a flipping and wholesaling business. We were just starting to scale up, and my mind like sort of imploded. I was like, okay, you go and study that and figure out how to do that. I'm going to stay here in our flipping and wholesaling business and continue to scale this, what we're using to make money right now. And then we'll see what happens.
Yep.
So he's doing that. I'm doing this. I'm learning at the same time as him, but I don't have as much time. And plus, I'm pregnant. I don't want to use that as an excuse, but a woman's mind goes funny places and does funny things when she's pregnant. So there was a limit to my capability to really, really process newer information, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
At least that's
Yeah.
how my mind worked. So long story short, he brings a deal to the table. We also have a partner, Kevin Dowling. So they bring a deal to the table. We all look at it and it makes sense. And we ended up taking down our first 94 unit within 6 months. And once I saw that it could be done and it made sense, all of a sudden, like, fireworks went off in my head. Instead of like having the mindset of, okay, we can't do this, don't, like, let me put on the shutters and I'm not going to listen, la la la. All of a sudden it was like, okay, this can be done. And this is it. At that year, that was like 2017 into 2018, like we started seeing how much more scalable and how much better multifamily was for our needs, and how we just act on a day-to-day basis within the business, within our families. Does that answer your question? I kind of went on a couple of tangents.
No, that was great. That was great. And I find that, you know, your journey, although much different than mine, the mindset was very similar, where it's like, you know, once you get that hurdle, you know, for
Yes.
me, I was doing the 1 to 4 families. I had a bunch of rentals. I was doing a bunch of flips. And then finally that mindset shifted and I went and bought some mid-size. I didn't go up to a 94. I actually bought some mid-size, but then it was like, well, this works. Why am I doing this? Like, let's just buy 100-unit building. And when I did that, it was like the same thing. Like you said, the fireworks went off. And it was like, whoa, like this makes so much more sense. You mentioned earlier about leveraging people and how you didn't. And you guys have that mentality of you can just do it yourself. I'm very similar. Do you now leverage people, or are you still doing it yourself way too much?
See, the thing is, and I'm gonna say yes. Sorry, I'm picking up one of my children's toys, which is all over the place.
Yeah.
So right now we kind of do both. But the thing is, with large multifamily, you have to leverage people and you have to be good at it. Because if you're not good at it, doing large multifamily out of state, someplace where you don't live, you can't be there on a day-to-day basis, which really works for Jason and I. You have to make sure you trust and know the team that you build out in these areas. Because with large multifamily, you and I both know that each building, it's its own business. You can have the same project manager go across different buildings, but each building is its own business, and you have to make sure each building has a solid team, because if it doesn't, you're not only failing yourself in your business, you're failing your tenants, you're failing the people that work for you. So you have the responsibility, the ultimate responsibility, to build out the correct team. Because without that, you really can't get into large multifamily. You just can't. You can't do it alone. I think that's why we like it so much, is because it's an asset class where you need the team. You have to be a team player, and you have to be able to kind of be, puppet master is the wrong word, but you have to be a good leader. You have to make sure that you lead correctly and you make sure that you communicate correctly, because without that, you really can't get into this asset class.
Yep. No, I 100% agree. You know, a couple questions on that. First of all, you said you have to know and trust how do you develop that where you know and you trust them? And then you said you have to have a solid team. So that kind of piggybacks on that. Like, what are you doing to manage this asset? Because you're hiring property managers since it's out of state, my guess. And so how are you ensuring that things are going the right way?
Well, sometimes you can't, like, especially in the beginning. So if you're going into a new market, for instance, and you've done all your due diligence and you know it top to bottom, left to right, you are the king of your market. The only way to have that happen, or queen, excuse me, the only way to have that happen is to do your research, do your due diligence, and talk to people, get references. So I'm talking about when you're first getting into it and you don't know anybody. So you need to talk to brokers. You need to find out who's doing the most work. You need to find out that, are they doing single families? Are they doing small? You have to make sure you find a property manager, let's just go with that instance, that does exactly what you want them to do. Don't go to a property manager that says that, oh yeah, I have, 100, 200, 5,000 units, all single family homes. That's not what you want. You need to find that person that does large multifamily in the scale that you want them to. And then from there on in, it's really having conversations with them, making sure that they're the people that you're going to want to talk with these people like on a weekly basis. You want to make sure that they have a good track record. You want to talk to other investors in the area. You want to talk to other brokers in the area. You really, really, really want to dig deep on these people. And then it's just kind of taking the leap of faith, like doing as much homework as you can and then taking the leap of faith on somebody. And sometimes it doesn't pan out, but, and I know your listeners out there know this, you need to fail quickly, hire slow, fire quick. So if they don't work out, either you can work with them, try to make them into the people that you need them to be, or fire them and find the person that fits what you need.
Have you guys had to fire anybody yet? Property manager, people on site, anything like that yet?
I know we were really close to it. We didn't fire the property management company in this instance. We fired our direct contact because he was just messing up too much. So we got somebody higher than him to work with us.
Okay, and so was that the solution then? You made sure a person was out of the kind of the mix and got somebody else in, and that kind of righted the ship.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because all of a sudden the person that was in his shoes, like taking care of us in the property management company, was actually listening to us and doing what we were asking them to do instead of trying to, I don't know what this guy was doing his own thing, which is not working.
So you're out of state. How often are you talking with the company, the management company contacts, and how often are you actually visiting the site?
So we have a standing meeting every week with the property management companies just to go over everything, no matter if there's something that needs to be done. It's touch base, make sure everything's good, get the numbers from them, and make sure that, you know, we're all on the same page. What was your second question?
How often do you go?
I don't actually go very often. I usually send Jason. He goes, I want to say once every like 2.5 months. And then it's depending on whether or not we have an acquisition coming up. We have a closing this week. So he is going on Friday to go and he's going to go take care of the building that we're acquiring and go take a look at all the other buildings while he's there.
So maybe four to 6 times a year or so.
4 to 6 times a year.
Awesome.
And it makes sense. Plus we have family in Kentucky. So it becomes a family trip too.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
That's always nice when it becomes more than just a business trip, right?
Well, for all your listeners out there, I mean, invest somewhere where you either have family or it's someplace you want to visit. Don't go invest. Like, for instance, that's another reason why we didn't want to be in Indianapolis anymore. It wasn't any place I would ever go to. Not that I have any problem with Indianapolis. For any of your Indianapolis listeners out there, it's awesome, I'm sure, but I don't have family there. There's no reason for me to be there. Whereas Kentucky, I have my sister-in-law there and her family and her newborn. So it makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And you guys when I introduced you, it was Kentucky, Georgia, Florida. And I know by having conversations with Jason, you guys are very interested, especially in the Florida market, but in those markets. So why are you wanting to go down there?
The scalability. The Kentucky market is getting saturated. We were lucky enough to be there before that happened. So we got to pick up a good amount of buildings, and we were lucky to have that time to really dig deep. And we're still looking in Kentucky, but in order to scale where we want to go, which is $450 million in assets within 2 or 3 years, that's not going to happen in just Kentucky because the numbers there don't mesh. We'd have to pick up way more buildings than we should need to. So we are looking in the Georgia and Florida markets for the scalability there.
Well, there's got to be more than just that, though.
More than just the scalability in Florida and Georgia?
Why those markets and why not New Jersey? Why
not New Jersey? Oh, well, see, we tried New Jersey.
Mississippi.
We were not under contract, but we were looking at a couple of buildings with some partners here in New Jersey, and it just didn't work out. Once you the numbers at the forefront, we're just like, wow, it's New Jersey and it works out. But we took a little deeper and it ended up not working out. Like the seller wasn't completely honest with us about his numbers, and we had to back away. And we haven't it just doesn't make sense with what we want here. And plus it goes
so
with
the fundamental numbers. Is that what it is?
Yeah, our fundamental numbers. And then like Florida and Georgia, well, I personally like those areas because it's usually a lot warmer, and I'm originally from Hawaii.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's places there that I don't.
That's what I was kind of thinking you were going to say, something like that.
I wouldn't mind visiting there.
Yeah.
Disney World is in Orlando, so who wouldn't want to invest in the land of Disney?
Right.
But really, when it comes down to it, it's really the numbers. I mean, yeah, I can spout up. I would love to invest in Hawaii, for instance, but is that going to happen?
Probably not.
We look at buildings every so often, but it's like sort of a pipe dream because the numbers are just so wild there. It's crazy. You know, when it comes down to it, no matter where you invest, it has to come down to the numbers. It has to like fit exactly what you're looking for, no matter like if you have your sister-in-law there or family or someplace you want to visit.
Yeah, and that's super important. I mean, I agree. It's nice to have a place where you want to visit for sure. That's definitely helpful. But then also, like you said, the numbers, just the business, it has to make sense. It's still a business and it has to make sense. If it doesn't make sense, then why go for it?
Yeah, that's the other thing with large multifamily that's so removed from flipping. With flipping, you get into it, at least I did in the beginning because of HGTV, and it's like you want to be the next, Chuck and Joanna Gaines, and you want to do all the pretty things, but then you realize within flipping, unless you systematize it and you make every single house the same, you're never going to get out of the weeds. Yep. You're always going to be in the weeds, and all of a sudden, like picking out tile is not fun. So that's what it got to, and it helped us when we got into large multifamily because all of a sudden we're just like, we're not going to do anything like out of the ordinary. Every single apartment's going to look the same.
Looks the same. Yep.
And that's how you do it. Like you can still be creative, but you take out the unnecessary steps.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and maybe you're creative on a design aspect, but that's one time, and then you just repeat that 200 times or whatever. Exactly. It is. Hey, let's take a minute to thank our sponsor, Pine Financial Group. Look, you work hard for your money. Is your money working hard for you? Because of inflation, money sitting idle erodes your wealth. Many investors understand that real estate is a great investment, but may not want the effort or the risk that comes with owning their own property. They want to sit back and have payments, hit their bank account each and every month. Stop eroding your wealth and start building it by asking your money to work for you. You should be earning profits while you sleep, an investment backed by real estate. Pine Financial Group, the leader in hard money lending in Colorado and Minnesota, was recently approved to offer their investment publicly. This investment offer is only for investors in Colorado and Minnesota and is only made through the investment prospectus. Get your copy today. Simply visit www.pineinvestments.com and click to get started. There's a reason why some of the wealthiest people in history invest in loans backed by real estate. Learn more about the risks and returns at www.pineinvestments.com. It's www.pineinvestments.com. So I want to shift. This is for selfish reasons because my wife and I are looking to potentially work together, right? She's got a full-time job. She's potentially looking to, well, she's been talking about maybe changing, and finally we're like, well, why don't we just, team up? And so we're looking at that. Well,
yay, good for you.
You and Jason obviously have been working together for quite some time now. Mm-hmm. And there's got to be challenges. There's got to be pluses and minuses to it. But I want to hear for our listeners too is, first of all, do you suggest working with your spouse? And I'm sure you're going to say yes, because otherwise it's going to be an awkward conversation. And then what are some of the challenges? What are some of the things you need to really be aware of? Like, just kind of take me through the whole experience that you guys have, and maybe some of the opinions that you have, and maybe some of the opinions that you think Jason has, and help us navigate this.
Well, number one, congratulations. That's a huge step for both you and your wife. So Jason and I sort of have an unfair advantage over every single couple in the world because we started working together.
Yeah.
We hashed out our business differences, and we still have, a lot. But we hashed out a good amount of it back in our 20s when we used to manage bars together.
Mm-hmm.
Our boss used to pit us against each other all the time because our mindsets are so different, so different. But it worked, and we got things done. So we got a lot of that hashed out, and we've always since then, like even when we were in the dregs of managing restaurants and managing this bar we used to both work at, we still worked well together. So the most important thing is communicate. Know what lane you guys are in and be malleable enough to change those lanes when needed. This is key, because if you don't know where you stand in the business, then miscommunications will happen, and that might bleed into your everyday relationship, and you don't want that to.
Right.
Work to Jason and I is basically like part and part of our relationship, because that is how our relationship got built, because we were working together so closely. So communication is definitely key. And then once you get into especially real estate, like, so for instance, Todd, you already have this incredible business built, and your wife is going to come and help you. So you need to, I'm not sure how comfortable she's going to be with this, but when it comes to business, I always, or most of the time, defer to Jason, just because that's easier for me. I know the women who might be listening to this might just cringe when I just said that, but it's true, because it's easier for me because I know where I stand in the business. So if Jason says, that deal we were looking at, we're dropping out, and I'll just be like, okay, send me the numbers. I'm not going to argue with him for the reasons why we're dropping out, because that's a waste of our time. So between you and your wife, or for all your listeners out there, and this is for partnerships in general.
Yeah.
No, for me, it's easier to have somebody to defer to in certain situations. So when it comes to business, I defer to Jason. When it comes to family and home, he defers to me. So if I tell him, that thing we're like, that paint color we're going to paint the house, or, that thing that we're going to do with the kids, we're not doing it. There's no argument. I give him the reasons why, but there's no extraneous conversation that needs to happen. You guys have to be willing to hash things out beforehand. So with any partnership, you should know who's doing what. So for instance, Jason he has a background in finance. I don't. I'm an English major. So I do most of the copy for all of our marketing. I do customer and client relations. I do everything that I know I'm good at. And then I help him in his lane. Whereas Jason, when it comes to underwriting, he's number one. When it comes to being on target with all the numbers, communicating because he's really good at management, communicating with our project managers and with our people on the ground. That's what he takes care of. And then I help him with that. So when it comes to your business, and I'm going to use you and your wife, Todd, when she comes on, just make sure you ask her, okay, what do you want to do? And your wife, and she knows herself, and you figure out how she can best serve the business, will be serving herself the most. Does that make sense?
Yep. No, all really good stuff there. Anything else that you can think of that really helps you guys do well together?
Especially business difficulties, don't let that, or try not to let that bleed into your personal life. It's going to be difficult and it's going to
Right.
happen. And your
Right.
conversations are going to turn into everything real estate now, because she's not going to have that separate life.
Mhm.
Make sure, if you need it, to take those separate things, just so you have, like, if you need, like, to have like this separate thing on the side, because all of a sudden now you're going to be both in real estate. But say you need another hobby, like find another hobby, like both of you guys find separate hobbies that you can be like, look what I'm doing, honey, I'm doing this pottery, or I'm doing this other thing, just so you can have that sort of separation from each
Yeah.
other. And then when it comes to your children, like all of a sudden the dynamic between you and your wife will be different, because now you're going to be spending a good amount of time together. You're going to have to, especially at the beginning, because she doesn't know
Yep.
as much as you do.
A lot of learning.
The other thing is, I would have her go through whatever program that got you to where you're at.
I've already said, hey, you're going to have to start listening to my podcast now, and
Mhm.
you're going to have to start reading some of the books I read. And
Well, the other thing is, like, maybe we should plan this. You should have her do the podcast. I've learned so much from interviewing people.
yeah,
It's crazy. I mean, talk about like just self, like it's almost like podcasting has become sort of a selfish pursuit. Because I interview these people, I'm just like, wow, I didn't know that. Great. Or like mindset, or all those things, just to kind of get her into the feel of this world. And this is for also all your listeners out there that have husbands or wives that think you're crazy or don't want to get into it. This is another way you can just like communicate with them and get them to understand why you do what you do and the benefits of it.
Yep. One of the cool things I think that was with what you said here is that everything you said honestly really relates to, well, most everything you said really relates to like any partnership,
Yeah.
right? Any business partnership, whether it's your spouse or just any other person. Most
Yes.
of this stuff, I mean, communicating and understanding knowing your lane, right? And knowing who's kind of ultimately, you know, the leader or the decision maker, at least, especially for certain, certain
I
things.
think
And
that's key. I really do. I know,
yeah,
not everybody will agree with me, but I think it's key in any partnership to have the person that ultimately is leading the company,
yeah,
that ultimately is the person to go to for the final decision. Because especially between a husband and wife team, or just like two people who are just like kind of 50-50, like then if you guys are always bashing heads together, who's going to make the decision? And with what we do, sometimes decisions need to be made like that. So if somebody makes a decision that you don't agree with, is it going to be worth your time to have that argument when the decision's already been made?
yeah,
No, don't have the argument. But maybe if you have an opinion, say, you know what, honey or partner, this is my opinion. Maybe we could have done it differently next time.
yeah.
And then you come back and say, well, this is why I did it this way, but that's a great idea. We'll look into it. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, absolutely. And I don't remember what book I read a book, and they were talking about the two owners of a company, and one was a visionary.
Mm-hmm.
So that was their kind of main role, was the vision of the company, and then the other one was the implementer. And so that was his main role, is that the vision we got created, and then that person implements it. And I thought that
You
was an
should go
interesting
through
dynamic as well.
that book. That, I think that was from
I think it was Traction.
Traction and the EOS system. Jason's the visionary, I'm the implementer.
Yeah.
But he knows, and this is a tidbit into our little world that we have. He has so many visions and he wants to go so many different directions, and he, like, his mind works 100 miles an hour, whereas, and he can do like multiple things at the same time. For me, I know I'm an implementer. You give me something, I'll get it done, and I'll get it done right, but it has to be one thing.
Yeah.
You can't give me multiple things. Or if I'm already like on my own thing, Jason knows if he starts talking to me and it includes like a list of to-do things, I stop what I'm doing. And it's almost like you have 3 seconds to let me know if this is really important. Because if it's not important, stop talking to me because I have to finish this. Or because it's true, the human brain, if you interrupt it, it'll take minutes to come back. And yeah, minutes don't sound like much, but I have my schedule planned out to the minute. Like I have everything time blocked. Everything has its place. And if I have like a certain amount of time to do one thing, because I follow the One Thing by Gary Keller, then I want to get that thing done. But if what Jason has to get done supersedes that, and sometimes it does. Sometimes he is like, Pili, I can only trust you to do this. I'm sorry, but you have to like jump off of whatever you're doing. And I'll be like, okay, no argument. Because he knows if it's important enough and he's interrupting me, then I know it's important enough. But we've communicated so much on that front that he knows this. Whereas another couple, the wife or the husband might get irritated if that should happen. But that's why communication plays a huge role. Huge role.
Yeah, I love it. Great tips. Great tips. I really enjoyed that. And I'm going to probably make my wife listen to this. So,
well, again, it's going to be different. Like you and your wife have a totally different like mindset and communication style, and go through the traction system, figure out which one. I have a feeling I know which one you are, which one she is, but you know, it helps to go through and read that book.
So, what's a big mistake you or your company has made through this whole process? You guys have had a lot of success. What's a mistake that you've made, and how have you learned from it?
A mistake. Ooh, I'm bad with these because I fail and then I try to like push past it and I learn from it. So let's think of a big.
Doesn't even have to be big, just something that maybe comes to your mind first, but something you've actually learned from and like taken and created better things out of it.
So this kind of goes back to when we were flipping and wholesaling and getting to large multifamily all at the same time. That was a mistake. That was probably the biggest mistake we made, because we were trying to do too much at once. But at the same time, you don't know what you don't know at the time. And we thought we could handle it all. So all of last year, actually the year before, I also created I joined EXP. That's a real estate firm.
Yep.
I have my real estate license. I joined them and I was going to create a team, and I was going to do retail real estate too. So we not only had the flipping and the wholesaling going, but we were also getting to retail real estate because I thought I could do that. And at the time I was pregnant with our third child and manage a team of, I think I had 6 agents at the time. And it blew up in my face, blew up. So all of 2019, my key word was focus. So that's what I learned from that experience. At the end of 2018 into 2019, like Jason and I sat together and I was like, we are going to fail if we keep on going on this path. We are going to fail. Everything is going to collapse. And yes, we'll pick up the pieces, but we have a choice right now to pick the one thing that we're good at, which is large multifamily, and focus totally on that. Now, this has taken all of 2019. We dismantled our flip business. We dismantled our wholesale business. The wholesale business was easy. The flip business, we still have one more flip that we're selling, and then we're done. And then the retail business, I told the agents, go with my blessing. Here's, whatever you guys worked on, it's yours. I don't care. I can't do this anymore. I had our third child, and there was not enough time. There's not enough time in the day, and I wanted to focus on our children as well. And it was hard, like acknowledging that the thing is we weren't failing. That's the hardest thing about it. We were actually really profitable in flipping and wholesaling. The retail, it just never took off. But in flipping and wholesaling, we weren't failing. We had paid thousands and tens of thousands of dollars to join a great mastermind group that taught us a lot in flipping and wholesaling. And we just couldn't do it anymore because we just didn't have the time. And we better served ourselves to get into large multifamily and really, really focus in on that. So dismantling those companies, it was really hard just because we had put so much time into it. But once you make that decision to focus, it was like all of a sudden, both Jason and I just felt lighter. So having the focus and saying, all of a sudden, like last year became the theme was focus and just saying no. Do you want to buy this crazy, amazing house that you're going to make so much money on? No. Do you want to do this? No. So now it's 2020. My word is to simplify, which might sound like it's kind of the same as focus. It's not. So we're going to take our focus and now we're going to simplify. Now I'm going to take our business and start systematizing, writing everything down that we do and making it so I can go to somebody and say, here, this is exactly how you do it, where we do it, what we do on a daily basis. Take it over. And this will help us when we want to take on like a COO or like bring on more high level employees, even to bring on a new assistant, just to have our systems in place so we can be assistant. This is exactly what we do. Read it, take a week, 2 weeks, understand it, and learn exactly what we do. So that is my big thing for this year. It's going to take me a little while to write up this thing, but that's what I'm doing. And it's also the year of yes. So we're going to start saying more yes to more things that are in our lane. So that's sort of what we failed at, how we dealt with it, and what we've learned from it since.
That was awesome. Great answer. I mean, I really like how you dug into detail though. And you reflected too. I mean, so many of us get so busy, so wrapped up, and we've already started something and you feel like, like you got your flipping business, you're making money. Like, why shut it off? Right. But you realize that it's not because you want to do less necessarily. You're probably doing as much or maybe even more, but you're focused on just one thing. So it becomes simpler to get better results. And that's a big difference. Is before you were kind of doing the shotgun approach where you just blasting everywhere. You got the flips, you got the wholesales, you've got the retail, broker side, you've got the multifamily, I know you guys do the podcast and you do some coaching and stuff like that. And
we're everywhere.
And now you're focused.
Yeah.
And now it would be easier after you get really good at that and get your systems and process in place. And now if you wanted to add a piece, it might become easier to add back in, but you had to take away in order to get the company to where it needs to be in order to grow, to get to your 450 million.
And we wanted to scale multifamily and scale quick, which meant, and this is for your flippers out there that are just thinking about getting into large multifamily. So for your flippers and wholesalers out there, you don't need to follow what I just did. You don't need to follow that. If you have a business that is scaled, meaning you can walk away from that business for a few days to a few weeks, then that means that you have the systems in place. Because flipping is a job. It's a job. Yes, it's investing, but it's a job. So is asset management with large multifamily. You have to realize that these things will take your time, especially if you don't have the right people working with you and working for you and you're leveraging the correct people. So unless your flipping business and wholesaling business is leverage and working on its own and it's a machine, don't start in large multifamily. I mean, yeah, read the books, but don't pay a mentor to get into it yet. Just hop into it slowly. Once you're completely know that your business can run without you, then come talk to me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, great advice. A lot of people want to just
do all the things.
Well, they want to go from doing nothing, having no knowledge, to all of a sudden buying a 100-unit apartment complex. And because somebody said it's easy, they go, okay, it's easy, I can do it. Well, yeah, everybody can do it. Right? Everybody probably can, but it's not as easy as just starting with a 100-unit apartment complex. So, well, we're running out of time. I could keep on talking to you for like 2 more hours, but I've got to finish off with a couple of questions. First of all, what's a favorite book that you want to pass on to our listeners?
So just I run my life on these books. I love an assortment of books, but when it comes down to it, it's The One Thing by Gary Keller. Find that book. And it's also the 12-week year. So Gary Keller will allow you to focus, and the 12-week year will allow you to get your goals done.
Yeah, I like
and
both those
12-week
books.
year is Brian Moran.
Okay, perfect. The last question, what are your 3 pillars of wealth creation?
So if you had asked me 2 years ago, I would have said flipping, wholesaling, and a large multifamily. So to create wealth, we have our large multifamily syndications and our asset management. We also we just got into life insurance with MC Laubscher. So we're going to be investing through our life insurance. And then number 3 is our mentorship program and scaling that.
Cool. Awesome. All right. I lied to you. You got one more question. How can our listeners get in touch with you, learn more about what you guys are doing, about your podcast, all that kind of stuff?
So you can go to www.yarusiholdings.com to find all the information. If you want to find out more information on our coaching program, you can go to www.multifamilyfoundation.com. But really, if you want to just talk to me, message me. Find me on Facebook, on Instagram. You can just message me, find me. There's not that many Pili, Pili Yarusis, Yarusi in the world. So
probably not too many.
I'm usually very easy to find. Just message me. I check my that other folder, Messenger, all the time, and ask me a question. I'm usually super open and super available.
Awesome. Well, Pili, I really enjoyed our conversation. Thanks a lot for joining me, and you have a fantastic rest of the day.
Thank you, Todd. It was an honor.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Couple things before we go. Again, go on to our Facebook page, Pillars of Wealth. We'd love to have you on there. Go on to iTunes, give us a rating and review, and subscribe to the show. Also, don't forget, reach out to me if you want any help with potentially growing your business, and reach out to John Stiles to help you buy or sell real estate. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it. Have a fantastic rest of the day. And as I say, make every day a Saturday.